So this is St. Bride. This is one of John Duncan's most well-known works. It depicts a really interesting, it's a Christian story, but it's based on a pagan goddess. So Brigid, or St. Bride, she in the pagan faith was a goddess of springtime, of kind of renewal, but within Christian iconography, her miracle, as it were, was that she was transported across the sea, the Irish Sea, to attend the Nativity. You've got some of the beautiful Celtic knots along the bottom of the angel's robes, as well as round on the frame. But you also, interestingly, have Iona in the distance, which was where St. Columba founded the monastery, which really brought the Christian faith to Scotland and is seen as this kind of key moment in the cultural awakening of Scotland.
It's just such a stunning piece of work, and there's so much going on. I was really interested in, I suppose, the story that it tells. You know, like you say, you've got Iona, things that you don't necessarily notice at first. The seal, and just the colours in the wings are just stunning, and that idea of, I suppose, that pagan and Christian duality that actually is, I've found really interesting in kind of Gaelic culture, you know, in sort of the Highlands and Islands. There is this kind of, the two things go alongside each other, and I've always been really interested in kind of beliefs, kind of otherworldly, superstitious beliefs, and how they seem to be accepted alongside Christian beliefs, which feels quite an unusual thing in a way. So knowing that St. Bride has that kind of duality really kind of interested me. The project's called Sealladh, and it can mean sort of like a view, but it has quite a lot of different meanings, and you could, like, Sealladh could be a kind of second sight, so it could be this sort of slightly more otherworldly idea, and these different viewpoints, and it seemed to encompass quite a lot of different aspects of that visual world that I was trying to sort of get inspiration from. So the two pieces of text that I took, I had the Carmina Gadelica, Alexander Carmichael's collection of charms and texts and poems. I took a little bit. There are quite a few about St. Bride in that, because St. Bride was, as the sort of more pagan kind of goddess aspect, she was associated with livestock and spring, and that idea of working the land, I suppose, rebirth exactly. Yeah. So I was kind of interested to use little sayings that people would have said about her at that time, and so there's a little line that mentions the day, you know, St. Bride's Day, and at birth of spring, which I thought was a really nice little element. And then the other bit of text is Marjorie Kennedy Fraser collected this Seal Woman's Joy, this sort of seal song, which is not really Gaelic words, it's sort of more vocables of this song to the seal kind of. So just having the seal in there. So I kind of used those two references in the song in terms of the Gaelic text, and put it into a bit of a song.
I think the sea is beautifully rendered in this work. It's like the surface spray, the slight chop of the sea, and I know that that's something that a lot of there's a greater vocabulary, I think, than the language around the sea, and perhaps a very special affinity to the water. And,
for sure, sea and also light as well. There's lots of different words for different types of light. So both of those things, and it really interests me how, again, that sort of contrast between John Duncan and MacTaggart, like how they treat the sea and the light.
This incredible series of works, or 4 embroideries, are by an artist called Phoebeana Traquair. When you started this project, I was most excited to show you because they are so special. And when you first saw them, you were seeing them in a store, and now being able to see them in the gallery and having this gorgeous light so that you can see all the beautiful threads.
I decided to kind of have them as little vignettes, I suppose, I like that thread, the thread that sort of threaded everything together, and so they kind of relate to the other paintings and mark that passage of time, because it did seem like the other paintings kind of were, like St Bride, it's got the spring, kind of that's beginning, and things like Quiet Sunset, Harvest Moon, kind of, later on in the kind of, in the day and in the year and all of that stuff, the passage of time. So they kind of either introduce or come out of those pieces of the other paintings, and very much have their own sound. So I've recorded the piece, and I'm going to be using some of those recordings in the live performance, and the sound is quite different, and I use the electric harp which is quite affected, and hopefully creates this slightly otherworldly kind of different kind of soundscape in a different world. The land is just, that's how people survived, and it's so important, and how the seasons affect the land, and the weather, and that passage of time. It's all so embedded in the way of life, I suppose, that it of course comes out in the songs and the culture. A huge part of Gaelic song tradition is work songs, and especially from women's work songs, were walking songs, spelt WAULKING, I think that was right, as opposed to walking along the street, walking the Tweed, where they would sit around and beat the Tweed and shrink it to make it watertight, and they would sing these songs, kind of rhythmic songs, and share stories and gossip and all sorts of things through those songs. And that's definitely something that struck me when I saw this, just that idea of how important textiles were, in women's work, especially in Gaelic culture, and how then you've got spinning songs, you've got all sorts of, you've got songs for every sort of every different type
of
activity. So I think I somehow, it's kind of it's a sort of, I don't know, it's sort of intangible link in some ways, but it felt kind of important to me, I suppose, to have, and interesting to me that there was an artist that was using a textile. Would you call it a textile? That was using something like that, and it put me in mind of those work songs and things.